Now, she's steering the AI roadmap at the platform that pays out $81 million a year to hackers and manages over 2 million security researchers. And just watch an autonomous AI climb to number one on their own leaderboard.
Last year, the time was 23.2 days, and just today morning I checked, it was 20 hours. That's the massive change. You don't have months, you don't have days, you have a few hours, and that clock is just ticking down relentlessly.
The same week. And then OpenAI released a cyber specific model, and I find 250 CISOs were editing a war plan in the real time because they just heard that. So if I am a CISO and my entire infrastructure just got x-rayed by something I cannot control, what is structurally different about this moment that should change how, as a CISO, I should think about this?
I always joke, our customer list is, if you think about somebody, if they had a security incident today, would be on the front page of Wall Street Journal tomorrow. Like, that's the kind of customer list.
And it's almost like offense. This defense feels like offense to me, right?
This defense is offense, right? So be proactive rather than reactive. Even before Mythos and now with Mythos, right, they're more worried about the problem just exacerbating. Between January to March, the report submissions went up by 3x compared to October to December of last year. So there was a 300% increase. In the same time, the duplicate reports, which means that, right, the vulnerabilities that were being found went up from 22% to 47%.
I'm rethinking my security program with board and everyone, like you said. I have their attention. How should I propose and put a proposition together that this is the right way to look at cybersecurity now? What would that be? Welcome to CXO Spotlight. I'm your host, Chirag Khanijo. And today we are answering one of the most urgent questions in cybersecurity right now. What happens when AI becomes the best hacker on the planet and the biggest target at the same time? To unpack this, one of the most uniquely qualified people in the world is here, Nidhi Aggarwal, Chief Product Officer at HackerOne. She co-founded a cloud platform that Google acquired, holds 6 US patents, and has built products at McKinsey, HP Labs, and VMware. Now, she's steering the AI roadmap at the platform that pays out $81 million a year to hackers and manages over 2 million security researchers. And just watch an autonomous AI climb to number one on their own leaderboard. So this is going to be a fun conversation and super relevant one. Let's go. Welcome, Nidhi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Chirag. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Nidhi, you co-founded a cloud platform that Google acquired later, and you have been at several companies, and you in fact built NLP tools for $1 trillion asset manager. That is not a typical path to running a product at a cybersecurity company. Tell us what pulled you into cybersecurity. What was the motivation?
Happy to. And yes, my path is very atypical, but my path has really been shaped by one core question. How do you take very powerful tech and make it usable at scale? So I started on the technical side, PhD in computer science, virtualization at HP Labs, and my thesis was also about how do you build high availability systems using commodity components. So it started with that mindset of, right, how do you take things that are commodity and make them usable and highly available. And what I became interested in there, especially during my when I was filing my patents, was there was so much great tech at HP Labs. I was surrounded, right? I had the honor and privilege of working with some very talented scientists and researchers, and the translation into real enterprise impact was not keeping pace with the right, the ideas and the research that was being generated. So I became very interested in that question of what was the blocker. And that led me to McKinsey, which, like, let me see the other side, where I was advising large companies on cloud and data. These were the very early days of cloud. And I kept seeing the same gaps in the organizations: very strong tech, but low adoption because it wasn't accessible. Right, at McKinsey, we were at that time talking about, right, is the cloud safe? Is it secure? And how should we adopt it? So AWS was very early. So I co-founded Quick Labs with my co-founders, and Quick Labs was a cloud configuration management platform that allowed non-technical people to configure the cloud very quickly for their use cases. And it just so happened that uh, training, the developer training, and became its major use case, where you could do hands-on training on the platform. And surprisingly, AWS became our first and largest customers. That's not what we were expecting, because we
Wow.
went to them for a partnership, and we thought, like, they know how to configure their cloud. It will be useful for other tech companies. And they were struggling with how to get their non-technical departments to use their own cloud. And so we launched our product at the first reInvent, and with this use case. And from there, it scaled broadly. It was worldwide and was eventually acquired by Google when they were struggling with the same problem. And I have focused on bringing data and AI into production in enterprise settings, including at Tamer, where we used AI and human in the loop to integrate data at scale. These were, again, very early days, 2014, and it was at the scale of, think, 300 ERP systems to answer a fundamental question: how many suppliers do you have? How many customers do you have? And we were using the power of AI scale. And that's the same theme that carries into HackerOne, where we are at a similar inflection point in security. AI is advancing very quickly, but the real opportunity is in turning that into something enterprises can trust and operationalize at scale to drive measurable risk reduction by combining AI with human expertise, so that you have the machine speed and scale, but you have the human creativity, judgment, and accountability to be able to drive real results, real risk reduction.
Yeah, for a lot of our audience, I want to first do the level set about HackerOne, right? For people who hear HackerOne and think bug bounties as the first thing, right? What is it actually today? Because almost $81 million in bounties paid last year, but Goldman Sachs and Department of Defense is on your client list. That's not a side hustle for a freelance hacker. It's a big deal. So can you first do a level set of who is and what is HackerOne?
Sure. Uh, HackerOne is a continuous threat exposure management platform that combines the power of agentic capabilities to drive discovery, validation, and remediation, with the unique insights from the ethical researchers and humans in the loop who provide the creativity, judgment, and accountability. And how this works in practice is, say, for example, right, AI can provide the continuous testing for certain types of vulnerabilities, but our ethical researchers will provide the creative adversarial validation for the kinds of vulnerabilities that require, say, business logic, or kind of knowledge, the context, and how real exposure manifests itself in a production environment, where AI can probably sometimes only look at the theoretical vulnerability, but that's where the adversarial creativity. And what we do then is, in our platform, we are able to take all these different types of vulnerabilities and use the validation agents and suite of agents that will validate whether this vulnerability is actually something that represents a true exposure. And again, we use that combination of validation agents and our team of uh, analysts who are highly specialized and experts in these kinds of vulnerabilities to say, what vulnerabilities should a organization really care about? Because there can be 100,000 vulnerabilities. You've got, like, no CISO wants more vulnerabilities. They've got enough of them through their scanners. What they want is validated exposure. This is why bug bounty was really powerful, because what bug bounty told the CISOs was, like, this is a vulnerability that can actually be exploited out in the wild. And that's why those vulnerabilities went to the top of the heap for remediation on engineering's backlog. And that's the capability we're scaling now using AI in our platform, the continuous threat exposure management platform. And then we help them validate, prioritize it using, again, combination of AI and human. And given all of the context, we help find remediation, effective remediation guidance for the organizations. And one of the most powerful things, right, beyond this combination of AI and humans, is we have worked with these enterprises. You mentioned Goldman Sachs, you mentioned Department of Defense. I always joke, right? Our customer list is, if you think about somebody, if they were, right, had a security incident today, would be on the front page of Wall Street Journal tomorrow. Like, that's the kind of customer list. It's a huge responsibility and it's a huge privilege that we work with these customers. We have, right, approximately 20% of Fortune 500 and right, um, as our customer list, 40% of Fortune 50. And those kind of customers, we have a lot of context on how they think about vulnerabilities, how do they manage them, right? What are the kind of uh, vulnerabilities and remediations that matter to them, and a lot of insight into, as they've been running these programs with us, right? What kind of vulnerability reports have they seen in the past? So, what actions should they take when a new vulnerability comes to fore? And that's something our customers value, right? Some of our customers have gone on record and said some of our capabilities, our AI capabilities, are like a teammate that remembers every report. So, right. So, HackerOne of today combines the best of its history of bug bounty and the agentic capabilities with the latest models to help the customers have this continuous discovery, validation, prioritization, and remediation loop, so that we are an end to end find to fix uh, loop for our customers.
Super, super. So I think we understand what HackerOne is, but I want to talk about something which kept you busy all through last 2 weeks. We will not talk about the remediation yet. I want to first talk about the problem because
Yeah.
it's important to understand the problem. Here is the way I see it. An AI just found out like 0 day vulnerabilities in 2 weeks that the security teams could not find in a decade. Every major operating system, every major browser, the same week. And then OpenAI released a cyber specific model, and I signed 250 CISOs side of, kind of on war editing a war plan in the real time because they just heard that. So if I am a CISO and my entire infrastructure just got x-rayed by something I cannot control, what is structurally different about this moment that should change how, as a CISO, I should think about this?
So, right, one big thing that has changed is that entire security architecture or the defense was built on an assumption that we had time to remediate. There was a assumption that, right, between when a vulnerability is disclosed to when it can be exploited, there was time. Right, the CISO of SysDig actually built something called a 0 day clock, and that is monitoring, right, how much time we had on average between a CV disclosure and exploitation. And last year, right, even when we had, right, AI tools, last year the time was 23.2 days, and just today morning I checked, it was 20 hours. Right, that's the massive change. So you don't have, right, months, you don't have days, you have a few hours, and that clock is just ticking down relentlessly for the time between discovery and exploitation. And that's the time you have to now move for remediation. So that's a fundamental change now
But
with
but even before
models that have been
remediation,
released.
but even before remediation, think of this, Nidhi, that you met me at a
Yeah,
conference, or you are the
yeah.
company that has been helping me. I trust your advice because of the wonderful background you have. And I am a chief information security officer. I opened my laptop and I heard about Mythos and I heard about Glasswing. And now I know some exclusive companies got access to it and they were able to expose so many bugs that were not found forever. My first reaction is, how do I prepare myself and even know where the problem is? Then I will plan remediation, right? So, how do you start advising them on, here is how you should think about this? What's that part?
So, one thing is proactively start looking for, right, whatever models you have access to. So, if you have part of Mythos preview. If you have Project Glasswing, you should already be pointing it at right your source code libraries. But even if you don't proactively look at your vulnerability backlogs, proactively point it to your software, and start looking for those vulnerabilities and start validating which ones are real exposure, and start retooling your organization to say, how do we now start building for a world where we are going to have a much larger attack surface, we are going to have much more capable attackers, and how do we prepare for defense in this world that is more continuous? So the start really rethinking the assumptions of the attack is going to be sparse, to attack is going to be continuous, attack is going to be dense, vulnerabilities are going to be dense. So once you break those assumptions, what does your org need to look like? So that's the way to fundamentally rethink right now. And you're going to have a, right, this is the time to have a conversation with your execs, because right now you have their attention as a CISO. Right now you have the attention of your board. Right, so you have to be the person who has to now go back and say, here were the fundamentals of how the entire industry worked, these were the assumptions we made, those assumptions are no longer valid,
Yeah.
and we now need to move at the same speed.
Correct. And I think a side aspect of that is very interesting to me, which is like only probably HackerOne can understand it, because you're so close to the sort of the hacker community which helps this, right?
Mhm.
You have over 2 million human hackers on your platform, and an AI just showed that they can do it 85 times faster than humans do. That means that the future of HackerOne, security and cybersecurity overall is agentic and human together, right? And is that the right way to think? Like even on your leaderboard now, there is an AI, not just human, right? So ho- is that how is this the new world that we should adapt to now?
So first I'll clarify, right, something. Our ethical researchers have already adopted models. So they are actually building harnesses and using the latest models to submit reports. So it is not an either or, that there are human hackers and there are agentic technologies. And even when we see the some agentic capabilities are on the top of the leaderboard, so actually we have to separate it out and say these are the right 1% human with AI or without AI, right? These are the hackers, and these are businesses, right, where you have 70 100 developers who are developing this technique or these agents. So it's not apples to apples
Yeah, no, I
comparison in
think
that
that's the
sense.
mind shift I wanted
Yeah,
to come out, because
yeah,
that's how they need to start thinking differently, right?
yeah.
In fact, there is a third layer to it which I would love to come out, which is not just agents, not just people, but even that 500,000 vulnerability data set that you have. That data
Yes.
itself should come together, right?
Yes. And so, right, the ethical researchers are usually, right, the people who are adopting this tech,
Hmm.
and they are trying to find the vulnerabilities as well. So, a ethical researcher with the latest AI is more powerful,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? So, AI is powerful, but AI with the creativity of an adversarial ethical researcher who has that mindset of how do I right have the right prompting, how do I tune it in a way that I can really think through the system vulnerabilities or the edge cases or the real risk. That is a much more powerful way to still find the kinds of vulnerabilities that AI will miss, because you will find all the vulnerabilities that AI can find, and then you will find the risks you are still exposed to.
And as we are on the topic of vulnerability and remediation, let's give some solutions to the target community of CISOs and their teams, right? They are dealing with this. It is super current for them. I want to understand if you explained it really well, that how I should perceive the mythos and everything that is happening. But tell me, as a part of security program, I'm rethinking my security program with board and everyone. Like you said, I have their attention. How should I propose and put a proposition together that this is the right way to look at cybersecurity now? What would that be?
um, I'm going to proactively apologize for a slightly longer answer, because this is not right. There's no silver bullet, right? First of all, when you have to rethink entire assumptions, you have to really rethink the entire model, right? And we have to, like I said earlier, we are going to be in a continuous detection phase, so we have to be in a continuous loop of validation and remediation. So that's the first one. So one is just embrace AI for defensive speed, right? Like just require AI agent adoptions. So your security teams cannot operate at human speed against machine speed attacks. So, like all of your security functions have to empower your staff to match the pace of adversaries. So that's just a given, right? So, and that's something now you have all the agency to propose to the board. There should be no right resistance to that, and then point all of the agents to your codes and like your pipelines, and deploy them, the LLMs and coding agents, to review your own code and dependencies. And that's the kind of, right, so that you are ahead of the adversaries. So you should be detecting it first. And kind of like, right, this is what the you talked about the 250 CISOs staying up all night, right? One of the big recommendation they had, which makes absolute sense, is kind of like we adopted DevOps. We need to have vulnerability ops or VulOps, because in that continuous mindset, right, or we need that pipeline which has the autonomous discovery of zero-day vulnerabilities and the autonomous remediation pipelines, so that it's not a handoff between different teams as it happens today, between like the team that discovers it, and then the team that hands off for validation, then the team that hands off to the engineers, and then there is some arbitration of which ones they can fix and fit in their backlog. And some days, months later, maybe some patch will be done. We just don't have the time for that.
Yeah.
It is much more continuous. So it's a architectural shift in
Right.
thinking about security. So you have to become much closer, right? All the teams have to work much closer. So go ahead, please.
No, no, please, please go.
The second thing is about, right, this is, we are not going to solve this problem by fixing one thing at a time. We can't play whack-a-mole. We'll have to really think about, right, design level changes. We'll have to think about bug class elimination. And that's something where AI can actually help us. Because if we find one type of vulnerability somewhere, we can now direct AI to say, go find me this type of vulnerability everywhere across my attack surface, right? And then we can use the same capability to, right, because AI is really good at speed and scale. So then we can also scale it as, now here's the remediation that we have tested and is right effective. uh, Now go and do this and test it whether it is actually effective, and retest it. Did it stay fixed? So that kind of design level thinking, and thinking through the architectural patterns that lead to those kind of vulnerabilities, uh, we will have to make some foundational shifts. We will have to have like real hardening of our environments, the basics that sometimes, right, like to be honest with security, the CISOs will empathize with this. The budgets weren't there, right? And a lot of CISOs will come and tell you that we've been asking for this, and now suddenly Mythos will bring attention to this. But just implementing the network segmentation, zero trust architectures, and having the phishing resistant MFA, you have to just build the defenses, because that's where the, if you find the theoretical vulnerabilities in your software, but your security controls stop on some of them, that will actually reduce your risk. And this was something I say often. Um, in the first instance where we saw that Claude could find vulnerabilities in Mozilla, if we looked under the hood, um, out of the 122 vulnerabilities that were found, uh, 14 were right high and critical, um, and two of them could be validated inside of a sandbox. Both of them would have been stopped by existing security controls. That's a powerful thing, that even though 122 vulnerabilities were found, none of them represented true exposure. That's the power of defense.
Interesting. Very
And
interesting.
that's something we should realize even in this, right, Mythos moment, that defense can be very effective.
And it's almost like offense. This defense
Yes,
feels like offense to me, right?
this defense is offense, right? So be proactive rather than reactive.
Yeah. What I felt great. First of all, this is really valuable because I do this chat with CISOs all the time. Why is this valuable? Because as you were explaining it, I was making a mental model of if I'm sitting in front of the board, how do I structure or layer this conversation, because they think at abstract level, right? And if I go technical at them, that's I lose the room very quickly. And cybersecurity has been plagued by that forever, especially the whole technology industry. So the way I understood in a very simple terms is that this is your moment. Like number one is this is your moment because you have the attention. Everybody understand what is glasswing, what is mythos. It is so relevant. So
Yeah,
I got the attention. Now everybody's
yeah,
listening to me.
yeah,
And once everybody's listening to me, the simplest thing I'm asking that you are telling that they should do is that define a process which changes the thing completely, which is like like a agile process of just keep saying this word of continuous and
yeah,
continuous rather than one time.
yeah,
And once you do that, you explain the tool of AI is now your tool, not something you're protecting against. So this mental model fits for me so beautifully because it is simple to understand and they can go back and coach their board. And the last thing, which was a kind of a bow that you put on top of it, was that now I need money to go and execute this because of the risk, and it can end up on Wall Street tomorrow, right? And that's what
yeah,
makes total sense to me. So it's like a fear solution and then value at the end, and it connects for me, completely connects for me. um all right, let's talk something which is very important. Once somebody understands that there is a vulnerability, there is a remediation, right? I want to understand what should I have a team. So we have a team like cybersecurity would have a team. And I now not only need to think about my program, my process, or my tools, I'm also thinking about the people that I have in my team, right? Can you talk a little bit about the new role of this team that CISO have and how should that evolve for the future?
So first thing is, right, this new team that the CISOs have, you have to think about the fact that they have to be much more closer to uh, this engineering mindset
Mhm.
of, because now for the first time, like the CISO org was always sometimes, right, seen as the org that says no, or the org that stops the business from right doing their work. And right, especially in the last few years, what was truly happening was everybody wanted to move fast with AI in terms of adoption and growth and innovation. And like I can tell you from the chief product officer lens, right? Um, if I was trying to balance the how fast do I ship products versus right how much do I pay down the security right debt, that's no longer the case, right? Security and speed right have become first class constraints, or like they are aligned with the business value prop now. So CISOs, right, their urgency is very aligned with the business urgency now. That's another thing that has massively changed with this world of continuous discovery that the CISOs are going to be faced with. So now they're advocating for the same speed. Now they're advocating for similar kind of tools, and they're advocating for similar kind of mindsets for the type of people they need, that the engineering org needs or that the product org needs. So that alignment is the clearest kind of signal for what type of people
Yeah.
you need to hire in a CISO org. And that's a wonderful thing. That's a great opportunity, because now there is an opportunity to partner with the business and say, you guys want to move fast? We want to move fast
Yeah.
because
This
it's
is IT
existential.
moment. This
Yeah.
sounds just like the IT moment of how IT CIOs had to get closer to business with this whole agile thought process.
Yeah.
This is that moment for cybersecurity, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
because security has the imperative to move as fast as the business wants to move, and probably faster in some cases.
Mm. What patterns? I'm very curious because you have a advantage of sitting across from so many CISOs, right? And especially now your calendar has been wall to wall because of Mythos drop and everything. What's the one thing that keeps coming up? What are the patterns that you're seeing that are coming up very often in these CISO conversations?
So, actually, let's first start with some data we are seeing on our HackerOne platform, because one of the advantages we have is we actually see a broad trend in data on our platform before we even go talk to the CISOs. So, across our platform, the volume of reports increased by 76%. Just the raw volume, and that was closely aligned with the release of Opus 4.6. So that meant that, first, the ethical researchers were using the models, the agents were being deployed, and they were reporting vulnerabilities. So that volume just increased. And that's something we all have to be mindful. And that's top of mind for our CISOs. So that's one of the things, we keep hearing from the CISOs, that they're just getting more and more vulnerabilities disclosed to them even before Mythos, and now with Mythos, right? They're more worried about the problem just exacerbating. The second thing we saw was that, especially for the open source code bases that we have on our platform, uh, between January to March, the the report submissions went up by 3x compared to October to December of last year. So there was a 300% increase. In the same time, the duplicate reports, which means that, right, the vulnerabilities that were being found went up from 22% to 47%. So, which meant that there was a lot more, duplicates in that reporting. And, at the same time, the number of high and critical findings went up. So that means, right, this conversation about AI slop is more nuanced than it seems on the surface. Yes, AI is finding more vulnerabilities. Yes, you are going to find more false positives or, AI slop. But AI is also finding more high and critical vulnerabilities. So, right, yeah, that's the scenario and landscape. And now, what the CISOs, are worried about, what I keep hearing is, one, they're worried about the volume of vulnerabilities, because their ability to keep up with the volume of vulnerabilities that was already coming in was really low. Because the problems they're facing is the cost of attack is going down rapidly. Meanwhile, the attack surface is going up dramatically, and their ability to keep up with, right, just managing the current uh, risk was already underwater, and now the gap has just massively increased and is going to keep on increasing. So that is their main worry, and they keep coming to it is like, how can AI, right, what are the tools that can help us? And the answer is AI, because
Yep.
the AI that is creating the problems is also the solution, because AI can help at, right, AI is really good at dealing with speed and scale and, right now, reasoning. But you AI alone won't be the answer.
Yeah.
You will need human judgment, creativity, accountability at the right times. You cannot have humans be the bottleneck in this continuous defense, but you will have to have the human judgment be available async and continuously improve what the AI models or AI agents are doing.
Yeah. You know what I find very interesting in this, Nidhi, that when you were giving those numbers, one of the number is very interesting in terms of the 70% increase in reporting of the bugs and everything and the vulnerabilities. And a lot of that reporting is done by humans, along with who are working with agents. And it's such a valuable insight that people might be glossing over, that these researchers are actually adopting AI the fastest in the world.
Yes.
And that is why they're able to use AI to discover vulnerabilities faster than CISOs have adopted AI or even built an ability to build to look at the insight, right? So if I am a CISO, I am looking for help, and my help solution is I need to use AI. I need to use AI to defend from AI. That's the knee jerk reaction and probably the right reaction. But then who tells me what to do? Right? Those people who have spent years in finding vulnerabilities, if you put AI in their hands, they are finding it fastest already. They're the ones who can help you, right? So sort of completes the puzzle for me, and I love that insight. All other were scary insights, but this was like a savior insight for me that, oh, somebody else is working very hard in using AI to figure out vulnerabilities. So sort of the silver lining in
Yeah.
the changing world, right? Yeah.
And a lot of times, right, these ethical researchers have spent so much time understanding the environment, right, that they sometimes understand um, the tech architecture better than some of the new people
Mm.
at the customers orgs, and they're able to provide very effective remediation guidance. So like it's fascinating how much what expertise the ethical researchers have built over time.
Mm. Yeah, I love how we're geeking out. I have one question though,
Yeah.
which is before the I ask you two questions which are like more personal than this work related. This
Mhm.
question is that somebody who's building the product for security, and you're the chief product officer, you always have that nirvana vision, right? I know where the industry is going, and there will be a time where there will be like a whole protection layer, and it will be semi-autonomous. What is the future looking like? Can you make a CISO's dream? Like, what is the dream that we are working towards in the near future?
Uh, so the dream, if I have to talk about, right, is one, there is a layer of continuous testing that is constantly dynamically right testing your entire attack surface, to figure out, right, it's almost like, think of it like a self-healing system, which is, right, one, it is constantly checking your temperature and figuring out where, right, are you most vulnerable. It's right, has that heat map of, here's where I'm finding, sensing some right trouble or whatever. And then, right, once it does that, then you can actually direct more specialized attention to those areas. This is where the ethical researchers or humans with AI, right, can come in and really focus their attention. And one thing I wanted to emphasize there was the diversity of thought will really matter in this AI world, because unlike deterministic software, right, AI will have, right, different use cases, right, it can be morphed to right, be used in different ways. So unlike traditional security testing, you will need that diversity of thought. We already see that on our platform, right, when we do sometimes the AI testing, we see a lot more like biologists and physicists testing and being more successful at jailbreaking the models than the traditional security researchers, because they have that knowledge. So you do that, and then, right, those kind of so you have this loop, continuous loop of where you are constantly right, the AI is constantly better, getting better, and the right, human researchers are constantly getting better with better AI. And all of these discovery mechanisms then are feeding into your continuous pipeline of validation, so that you are really focusing your attention on the exposure that matters, and you're prioritizing them according to your environment. And because a CDSS in the same environment, like for one environment, might not be the same risk in a different environment. So it's very contextualized for you, right, all the risk. It's not according to one standard uh, like CVE score. It's contextualized for right, the CISO of a retail company different, and not even the retail company, for you personally. And with that contextualization, you have remediation guidance that is contextualized for you, for your environment, based on your historical patterns, based on your design. And it's not limited to that one vulnerability, it actually contextualizes to your entire vulnerabilities, right, set, and that bug class elimination. And it suggests that, so that then you can propose a design change. You can propose, you can see the anti patterns, you can see the, like, how did this vulnerability enter your system, and you can eliminate the source rather than playing the whack-a-mole patching game.
Yeah.
And this loop is self reinforcing.
Yeah. I
That's
think
the
this is the nirvana state. You know what I feel like, that you made a lot of CISOs dream a little bit here, and now they're going to call you and say that, Nidhi, you made me dream. Now build it for me.
so, Chira, the thing we have to realize, right, kind of like how we are amazed at the pace of, right, what AI models can do, what I described, right, it might sound like a dream. It's more possible than we think, right? Uh, we're already building it, because the same models that give us, right, this, oh my God, we're going to have this vulnerability apocalypse, are the same models we can use to build the defense. And so, like, we should be more optimistic about what we can do to defend ourselves, because all of this can be built, right? It doesn't require new scientific research. It requires us building, connecting, and, right, having that process. We don't need to invent new things to build this.
Yeah, that's so cool. My last question is for the community that we are in, for the community of cybersecurity, who you have seen for a long time. You're working in it. You're building for it, right? As a chief product officer, a lot of them are struggling to figure out their way. That what should they learn? Young kids, coming out of STEM, have started their career in cybersecurity or in the middle of it, right? What advice would you give them? Where should they focus their skills on as your give back to the community?
Yes, I would actually say, right, I have been really amazed at the, right, the one, the resiliency, but two, just the sort of forward-looking mindset of the cybersecurity ethical researcher community. Uh, like I said, like, they adopt the tech, and it's like, they're that tinkerer, innovator mindset. And you have to have something like really the unique way of thinking to be able to go, right, bypass all their defenses. And so my advice to them would be, keep on doing that, because that learning mindset, because they learn new things, right, the environment changes and the company hardens their defense, and they still figure out a way. That's the best kind of mindset. And we've seen some amazing stories of like folks who didn't know anything about hacking. They learned, they tinkered, they were learners, and then they became earners, and then some of them are top researchers. So I would say lean more into that. And now with AI, you have more opportunities to learn even faster. And so lean into your curiosity, lean into your right, that bent of mind that thinks creatively, that thinks differently. You never were, right, of the kind of people who were following the straight lined path, and that's what made you effective. Now you have, the world is opening up to that possibility even more. So lean more into your strengths, and that would be my advice, because um, I hear of amazing stories every day. The, right, the inspiring stories of the ethical researchers, and mm, it gives me inspiration. So, like, my advice would be, like, keep doing what you're doing and do more of it.
Yeah, fantastic. I felt it. I felt the candidness come through and the
Yeah.
excitement to come through. And that's been the story of this whole conversation. We are at the end, but I really enjoyed how you did not pull any punches. This was candid, honest, and value giving. So thank you so much for making time and sharing your knowledge. And I wish you, Nidhi, and HackerOne the best in your journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation as well. And thank you for asking all the hard questions.
Thank you.